Hey guys, it's Mary Lucia from The Current, and thank you to all of our listeners and members who we are all jonesing for some live music, and these virtual sessions are made possible by you and your generosity, and we love you for that. And the fact that so many of you wanted to sign up once you heard that our musical guest today was Michigander. Throughout the chat, and they're going to play a couple of tunes for you. There is a place at the bottom of the screen where, if you have a burning desire to ask a question of any nature, really, you can just type that in, and we'll see about getting around to those. Otherwise, I'll ask my general stream of ludicrous questions on my own. But let's start by saying hello to Jason Michigander. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
Very fine. And please introduce your buddy to your.
This is my best bud, Jake. As
Hello.
he's been playing guitar with me for a few years now, and I just moved to Detroit, and Jake lives here in Detroit. So now we get to do these sessions together, which will be
Okay,
really nice.
that is amazing. Because I have to ask you this because it's a baffling thing to me, and I wonder
Yeah.
if it is to you as well. People write about bands that are from the Midwest and say they've got that quintessential Midwestern sound. What the hell is that?
That's a good question.
Is there an
um,
answer?
I don't know if there is an answer. I think it's just a cliche thing that a lot of people say when they're from here, because I don't know. Maybe there is an answer, but for me, I just think there's something. People in the Midwest are a little different than every aspect of the country is different, and um, so I think that we have a special thing here. I mean, we endure the cold every year, and but we also have beautiful summers, and so we're put through it, I guess. But yeah, I don't know what that means, but maybe one day I'll find out.
Well, I have a theory, not so much about what the Midwestern band sounds like, but I do believe that if you grew up in the Midwest, you didn't have the advantage of a coast and a lot of accessibility to a lot of things. And I do think you had to dig a little deeper, you had to go a little more underground. I do think that people and bands and artists from the Midwest have to just be a little more extra creative. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's true. Um, I think a lot of the bands in the Midwest also, like, one of the advantages to living here is like there's so many cities to tour, and like you can do weekend tours. Like if you're out west, it's kind of a little more tricky to do that, and even down south sometimes, So we have a lot. I think a lot of Midwest bands are especially gifted when they play live because that's where they have to shine, because they have the opportunity to play a lot more shows, and you can do Chicago, Detroit, and Minneapolis all in the same weekend, like pretty easily. So I think, yeah.
Jason, when you first started writing songs in your room or wherever you were, was it always sort of something in the back of your mind or the front of your mind that you were going to do this, take it to the next step? You were going to record, you were going to have a band, you were going to tour, you were going to do the whole thing? Or did it really truly just start off as, let me just see if I can write a few tunes?
I think I always am a person who thinks like, well, not so much anymore, but when I was younger, I used to think like I could be the best at anything I wanted to do. And then as you get older, that you become a lot more humble, and you realize that you're wrong. But I think my intentions, like initially, like in like junior high, were to become some big arena rock band, and I thought like, yeah, I don't need to go to college because I'll be playing arenas that year. So, but thanks though. But now, I mean, obviously, that is a hilarious thought to have. But yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to do this, and like all I would do is watch like live videos of like Oasis and U2 and Coldplay, like growing up and being like that's what I'd like to do. Uh, and
Do you
so
remember the
that's kind of
first
always been the goal.
do you remember the first person you played an original song to?
That's a great question. Um, Probably my friend Adam. I think I showed him some songs that I was working on. And he was like, you should do this more, and maybe you'll get better at it. And he was like the guy who was like, because I didn't think I could sing, and I'm still not the best singer, but I used to be way worse. And he's like, if you practice, you'll get there. And I was like, okay. And so I just kept showing him songs I was writing, because I used to just play guitar in bands. And then as I got a little older, I was like, no one else wants to do this music stuff. So, and then I heard like a Fleet Foxes song talks about like you don't need to wait on other people to do it. You just do it yourself. And I was like, oh, that's true. And so then I just was like started a band and started writing my own tunes.
And so Adam can really be the reason for your success in your entire career.
Big time, yeah. He's my best bud. Yeah.
Big props to Adam. Yeah, because you could have shown your first song to someone really cynical and horrible and having a bad day, and it could have changed the trajectory completely of your career.
Correct. Yeah, big time. Yeah.
All right, well let's get a song from y'all, and then we'll
Cool.
chat a little bit more. And now this is the point in the session in which I do a butt smooch, and that is that I did put "Let Down" as one of my top 10 favorite songs of 2020.
Thank you. That really means a lot. It's
Really did.
insane that you guys are playing the song. It like genuinely blows my mind. I used to email the program director back in the day every time I had a song, and they were always very nice to me. But now that the song is like playing, it's kind of a dream come true, definitely.
Cool.
So yeah. You want me to play "Let Down" then?
I would.
Cool. Hey, Jake. You're a concept worth exploring, never nervous, never boring. I don't wanna mess it up. No, I don't wanna mess it up. Crossing state lines through the morning, little tired, little swerving. I don't wanna mess it up. No, I don't wanna mess it up. I got high hopes, I got high hopes, but they let me down. They usually let me down. Well, I feel like I've known you, even though I've only met you. I don't wanna mess it up. I'm probably gonna mess it up. Well, you're walking down the stairs on a Wednesday night. Sure, it's kinda cold, but I feel alright, 'cause I've got you in the front seat, and you keep on looking at me. 'Cause I got high hopes, I got high hopes, but they let me down. They usually let me down. I got high hopes, I got high hopes, but they let me down. They usually let me down. Yeah, 'cause love, yeah, love, find you when it's ready. I got high hopes, but they let me down. They usually let me down.
Yay! This is Michigander here, and thank you again to members for making this session possible, and thank you, Jason and Jake, for being here. That song, "Let Down," has the perfect combination of vulnerability and then just pure pop catchiness. And that to me is an
Thank you.
ingredient. That's an
Oh,
ingredient
thanks.
for a winning song.
Thank you. That really means a lot. Yeah, thanks.
And I hate when people compare, but what I love about that and about a lot of your music is the same quality that Coldplay fans, I think, when they were introduced to that song, either Yellow or Shiver, it has that same feeling of vulnerability, like Fragile. And then
Thank you.
it's a
It's a
massive
huge
pop song.
compliment. Thank you.
Well,
Thanks
yeah.
so much.
So I got to ask you this because, of course, my heart always nearly breaks when I hear artists saying, I'm most happy or I am most myself at ease when I'm on stage performing for people. And then along comes 2020, and that just completely took the wind out of that sail. So now I got to know how you're keeping your spirits up and what you've been doing in terms of just, are you making plans for the future? How optimistic are you?
I'm overly optimistic always. I remember like when this first started, I was like, no, I'll be fine. We'll be good for the summer. And then I was like, well, the summer, might be bad, but we still got Lollapalooza coming, so that'll be good. And then I was like, if the summer doesn't happen, we'll still have those support dates in the fall and blah, blah, blah. We're still going to release a record in the fall. And then now it's like, okay, hopefully by this fall, which I feel pretty good about. I think a lot of people do, that we'll be back on the road. But at first it was very hard for me. I mean, because last year was supposed to be like the year, I felt like, for me and the band and what we were doing. And to see it all like go away is very depressing. But now I'm I got to just work on the new EP for the whole year, which I would never have that luxury of that much time. But now that it's done, I'm like, I look back and I go, the silver lining was like this new collection of songs is like so much better than anything else I've released, and I'm so excited for people to hear it.
I've heard you describe the EP as ambitious. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, in the past, like we'd go to the studio and we'd record everything. Like we'd record a song in a day or two, and like that's what we had to do. Like that's just how we worked and like the time we had to record. And now we're at a point where we could go back to the studio as much as we needed, and I could take the tracks home and work on them from my computer, and we could add samples and we could change ideas and we could cut stuff up. We had a luxury of having a lot more resources to make the record a lot better than anything else. And so, yeah, I think there's like, I used to care about only writing songs that I know we could pull off live. And if I was a little nervous about them, I'd just throw those songs out. And like, don't worry about it. We couldn't pull that off. But this time I was like, I don't care. We can figure that out later. Let's just do the best songs we have now for the EP. And I was so nervous about it, making it, and then getting the masters back in like December and listening to them obsessively still. I am very excited about it.
Well, it's one thing that I know that a lot of artists have done during the pandemic has been releasing just kind of one-off singles. And that might just scratch the itch enough for some people. I mean, have you been writing more prolifically then since you've actually been quarantined?
I mean, at first all the songs were just about how the world is ending and it sucks.
It is,
and,
by the way. Yeah.
And and I thought it was very dated. Like all the songs were dated, and I was like, I can't really use these. And then I just kind of took a break, and then I just worked on the songs I already had, and now, like, the EP is done, and we're making like a big announcement about all that tomorrow. But the next, like whatever's next, whether it be a full length or an EP, like that's already being written. And I've never, ever, ever could imagine having that much done. So now I'm writing a lot more now. But for a while there was like no writing at all, and it was all boring, sad music. But yeah.
Well, how's about we get you to play another tune right now? Which one do you want to do?
We'll play a song called "Okay," which is on the new EP. It's the world premiere, and it's coming out tomorrow or tonight at midnight. Yeah.
Crazy.
Cool. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. You're the only one that I wanna see right now. But since you're not here, I think I'll just go home. Kicking up the dust as I wander around downtown. I'll do anything to not go home. Home. It's okay to be lonely. It's okay to be alone sometimes. It's okay to be lonely. It's okay to be alone, lone, 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 lone sometimes. Sometimes. Oh, sometimes. Sometimes. Picking up the pieces. Picking up the social cues. I don't have a reason to feel the way I do. Another step forward, then another one back. You can go anywhere, just stay on track. Be who you are or pretend who you wanna be. It's not easy, it's okay to be lonely. It's okay to be alone sometimes. It's okay to be lonely. It's okay to be alone, 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 alone. It's okay to be lonely. It's okay to be alone sometimes. It's okay to be lonely. It's okay to be alone, 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 alone sometimes. But I still want you. I still want you. It's okay to be lonely. It's okay to be alone sometimes. It's okay to be lonely. It's okay to be alone, 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 alone. It's okay to be lonely. It's okay to be alone sometimes. It's okay to be lonely. It's okay to be alone, 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 alone sometimes.
Michigander, this is such a treat. Okay, so Jason, when did you write that song? That song?
That was written during quarantine when I was alone. And I spent most of my days like just trying to get out of the house and riding my bike. I lived out in the country, and so I would just put the bike in the back of my Honda CRV and unload it downtown and just drive around and hope to run into anybody that I knew. Because that was always the biggest treat, was when you were grocery shop, like especially back in like April, you were grocery shopping and you'd run into a friend and you'd be like, "Oh, that's you! It's great to see ya."
It's so true.
I felt like that was the only acceptable time to see anybody, and so I would just ride my bike around and walk around downtown every day, and that's when I wrote that.
You know, it's so cool too, because that's sort of a philosophy that I've espoused for a long time, is that there's a big difference between being alone and being lonely. And there's nothing wrong with either. But now having so much time as we all have to be alone, are you more of a consumer now? Like, are you binge watching things? Are you reading more? What are you doing more?
I've been playing a lot of video games.
Okay.
I didn't really play video games before this that much, and now I do play a lot of video games. They're with friends. That's the main
Right.
reward to me, is like I have a bunch of friends who I don't get to see that often, and to play a video game with them is very rewarding. And writing more and stuff. I mean, me and Jake have been sending stuff back and forth for like, we never really did that before this, that much. And so, yeah, writing with other people has been fun. And, yeah.
So you
But no,
made
I haven't really.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say
Oh,
you made the
No,
move
you
to
go ahead.
Detroit during the pandemic.
to February 1st.
Oh,
I've
okay.
been here, 3 days? Yeah. From
Wowzers.
Kalamazoo.
Wow.
Yeah. Jake was a nice guy and helped me do it. But yeah.
And why did you feel you wanted to be centered in Detroit?
I've always kind of wanted to live here. Like I saw my first show here. I saw, like I went to like the Tigers games here. It's like this is like the first big city I ever saw in my life. Cause I like lived up north in like the middle of nowhere, and to like see a high rise building and all that stuff. Like it was always some sort of like nostalgia attached to it, and like exciting to be around things like this. And I've come here so often. Like Jake lives here, and a lot of my friends live here. An opportunity came up for me to move into this house with another guy, and yeah, so I have one roommate, and I just got here, so it's all very new, but it's exciting. It's just cool to be in a big city. I've always lived out in like the country or like in medium, smaller towns, and to be in a place where there's an airport will be really nice in the future, and not have to drive 2 hours to an airport is going to be very exciting.
Plus, it's the home state of Alice Cooper, and
Yeah.
Detroit has spawned about as many great bands as Minneapolis, St. Paul. I mean, honestly, it's when you
Yeah.
think all the way back to the garagier stuff and all of that. It's pretty amazing to think that like sort of going back to what we were talking about earlier, where it's like, what in the world is a Midwestern sound? But you know,
Yeah.
some musicians from Detroit say there is something to the industrialness of your surroundings but I don't hear it in your music necessarily, but they've attributed a little bit of some of the actual sounds of Detroit are an influence.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. I think every time I move, I end up like a bunch of new stuff comes into my mind and like a new space. And so, like when I moved to the last house, I wrote the "Where Do We Go From Here" EP, and that was like all written in because I moved, and so I'm really excited to see what happens here. You know, collaborating a lot more will be like cool because usually it's just me in my bedroom, but being able to have Jake over and writing, and then a couple other pals occasionally to write will be really nice. And yeah,
You want to know what
I'm excited.
one of my favorite feelings is?
Yeah.
The feeling when you've moved and the first morning you wake up in your new room. It's weird.
It's very interesting. It's very weird. It's like, is this a hotel?
Where am I?
I don't know. Yeah, it was very interesting. I actually helped. I moved here, and then I woke up, and then I helped a friend move to Tennessee because I have a van.
Oh, okay.
So I've only been here 2 nights, and this is like my first full day here. So, yeah, I'm happy to be doing something familiar.
That is so
on the
cool.
first day.
Let's talk
Yeah.
a little bit about something that I think maybe a lot of people don't really consider when they're at shows or when they're following their favorite bands, which is growing an audience. Because I would wage that most bands, when they first get like their first gig or an opening slot or something, basically the audience is mostly people you know.
Yeah. That's
Then
true. You're playing
progression-
friend rock.
Yes, and then the progression of like, well, I don't know who that cat is, and I don't know them,
Yeah.
and that must be a crazy feeling.
It is. One of the best stories about that, actually. I mean, because this is all very new to me. I'm not some big platinum selling artist or anything, and everything is exciting all the time. And the first time there was like a line outside a show
Whoa!
was at 7th Street, and like 2019, and I walked up, and like there was like a picture of me, and I was like, that's cool. And then there was I like got like a steak somewhere because I got like that was like one of the first nights we ever had like a per diem, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go get a steak. I have $20 or something, and as I came back, there was a line. And I was like, oh, I wonder who they're. I like literally said, I wonder who they're here to see because there's no way they're here to see me. That we must have a good opener tonight. And no, they were all there to see like Michigander, and I was like, wow, that was the coolest feeling I've ever had. Yeah.
Did you get to talk to any of those people in that audience?
Oh yeah, I
after
talked to
that
all
show?
of them.
Okay, yeah,
I think
and-
I talked to him before the show. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, I was just like, this is crazy that you people are here. Like, I remember the first time I played 7th Street, like 2017, opening for a friend, and there was a couple hundred people there, whatever. It was a good crowd, and I was like, this is the coolest place. And Lucinda Williams was playing in the main room, and I got to like watch that, and I was like, this is mind blowing. And then we got to come back and like headline that room, which so many people have, and like Minneapolis is like one of my favorite places to go. Like, not just saying that because I'm talking to you, but that to experience that was really bizarre, very very surreal. I think about that often.
So the next step in your odyssey of surreal is going to be when you hit the Oasis level of fame,
Yeah.
and all it is drunks singing your songs louder than you at you.
Yeah, I can't wait. And then we'll break up, and then
Right.
And then you'll never reunite and make a lot of people sad.
If you could hang with one Gallagher or the other, which one do you think you'd have a better time with?
I think would used to say Noel, but I think Liam's a little more easygoing. Mm-hmm. They're both goofed. I think choose Liam or Noel.
I'd probably say Liam.
Yeah, I think Liam would be more fun. Mm-hmm. I think Noel's a softie underneath, but I would probably choose Liam.
Yeah.
Just because.
I feel like you're gonna get honest answers out of Liam, not honest answers out of Noel.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a good observation, I think, actually.
I saw Noel once, and I had him sign a. I waited out behind the venue, and he signed like a CD for me, and then like this is so long ago, and I remember someone said, try to give him a beer on stage, and he said, beer. He's like, I don't drink beer. Beer's for poor people, and I was like, oh,
good. Great.
thanks, Noel. And then he was drinking champagne. But I'm sure
Yes.
that's just the
Sure,
that's
it was
just
a joke.
it's just a joke. It's part of his rock star quota he has to do every day.
Yes.
So yeah,
Well,
but I
think-
love them both.
Yeah, I do too, and I love that band. And we're going to talk about another band that we mutually love after you play another song. Which one are you going to play?
We're gonna play Misery. Yes. This song's called Misery. Thanks for watching. I was hung up on a dream. Oh wait. Sorry everyone. Restart. I was hung up on a dream. Well, being comfortable was not meant for me. But when you walked into the room, I knew that all my plans were doomed. You started talking to me. So tell me what you're thinking, 'cause I think I feel the same as you. 'Cause you got my knees shaking, so take my heart and break it in two. I didn't want to let you go. Well, I couldn't find a heart, I couldn't find a home. Well, if you think I'm misery, then baby, you're the company that never leaves me alone. No, so tell me what you're thinking, 'cause I think I feel the same as you. So got my knees shaking, so take my heart and break it in two. I'm trying to stay awake till I fall asleep. Well, I'm stuck between a pillow and a dream. 'Cause I'm too busy to call. Could we try next week? You can blame it on me. So tell me what you're thinking, 'cause I think I feel the same. Oh. 'Cause you got my knees shaking, so take my heart and break it in two. 'Cause all I want is you. Yeah, all I want is you. 'Cause all I want is you. Oh, yeah, all I want is you. Yeah, all I want is you. Nice chord, Jake.
Just learned it.
Was that a minor chord?
I don't know what that is. What is that? Diminished?
I think that's a 7, maybe.
Something jazzy, you know?
Yeah.
It's a little nod to,
Little Keith Jarrett.
yeah, just
A
something.
nod to Ella.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
Fitzgerald.
yeah, you know.
Some we always listen to.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank Jason Singer, Michigander. Thank you, Jake, and thank our members. And you guys, if there are questions that you would like to ask, Jake and Jason, please, there's a little form down at the bottom of your screen that you can type in a question. Otherwise, you'll just have to listen to my trifling questions for the rest of the session. But one thing that immediately, when I read about you, Jason, that made me go, oh, we could be friends for the rest of our life, is that you are a fan of my favorite band,
I'm so nervous and excited to hear.
Spoon.
Who? Oh, I
Spoon.
love Spoon. So good.
Right?
So good. Yeah,
All right.
they are so good. Yeah.
I have to qualify this because I feel I can't say that I feel that about any other band in the world, but I feel like they write every song for me, and not in a creepy way at all, but like every record I'm like, I'm so excited, and they have something that it seems really effortless, and that's a really attractive thing.
Could you hear her?
A little bit.
Spoon.
Maybe flip it. What about Spoon?
She said we both like Spoon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we love Spoon.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like a band who I feel like every album's like...
Every album's good.
Every album's great.
Yes.
And it's like they're never repeating themselves,
I
really.
think they have, I mean, I don't know. I heard they have something new coming out soon.
I hope so.
I think I've seen on Twitter. Yeah, there's. I saw them. So the very first time I saw them was at a music festival in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never. I was like, it was like 2012, and I was like, who? The Spoon Band? Apparently, it's like one of their first shows back.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, that was amazing. And then I saw them at Eau Claire in 2015 in Wisconsin, and I was like, whoa, they are so good. And I think I've seen them one other time too, but. What is the Hot Thoughts, right?
Hot Thoughts.
Yeah.
That album, I just so good.
Gimme Fiction is, I mean,
his voice too, and
Yeah.
I don't know how he sings like that at
Every night,
show.
yeah, I don't know. They're a very, very good band. Yeah, very intricate. Like every part is important to the song. And I in a similar but different ways, like Death Cab, it's like all the parts are like thought out. They're not just like mindlessly strumming 4 chords like we do. They have like these very thought out things, and it's very inspiring to hear.
well,
That's cool.
It is cool. And I mean, here's the deal. So we don't know, everything's so unknown, and we don't know exactly when or even roughly when things might get back to a semi-normalcy. But I think most musicians in this community are thinking, well, our best chance probably to perform is going to be in an outdoor event arena. In some outdoor where you could socially distance and stuff like that. And what's the landscape of Detroit and your surrounding area in terms of like festival fields or places that do outdoor shows?
Yeah, we're actually announcing our first for May, outdoor, socially distanced. We're opening for a band in May. We're announcing that like next week, and that'll be like our first. We did one drive-in last year with Mount Joy in Chicago, and that was the coolest. That was the coolest day.
There's
Yeah.
definitely spots in Detroit where that's possible. Like,
Yeah,
because we have Mo Pop Festival. It's right on the water, so it's like it's possible to do that here. It's just, I'm sure planning it is very stressful.
Yeah, they're. I've heard about stuff being in the works, but I think we're gonna just play what we can as far as things that are safe and stuff. I mean, we have plans for the fall to be back on the road and playing shows, and so hopefully that happens. But we just fingers crossed. Yeah.
I think that for an artist that's even just starting off, and it breaks my heart to hear you say that you felt like, at the end of 2019, it was like, this is going to be my year, and then everything exploded. But it's like, I also feel like this might force a lot of people to just be more creative in the way they get people to hear their music, get people to know who they are, and utilizing things like these Zoom sessions. Because did you think in the beginning when you started, like, oh, I'm going to have to, find a label, I'm going to have management? And I mean, how traditional were you thinking at the time?
Like when
First
starting
started
to
yeah.
play. Oh yeah, like that was always truthfully that was like, I can play shows to some extent, but and get somewhere, but I need people who can open up like these opportunities and these doors to like take things farther. And so I did everything by myself for so long, and then you eventually hit a ceiling where you're like, okay, I can't do anything else. And then you try to find the right people, and thankfully I did find the right people to help do my music and help me release it, and get me on a good track and help me get a song on the radio, which is seriously the craziest thing.
It is a crazy thing because I'm only by proxy. I feel like I'm a catalyst to helping you and your music, because when the shutdown happened, I'm going to just tell you that it was kind of a scary thing. This building that we work in, there are hundreds of employees. There's 3 radio stations under this umbrella. And the day we were told leave, well, that didn't apply to me or 6 other of my friends who are on air. So we've been coming in every single day to do our show, which has now taken on a little bit more importance, if I might say that. It feels essential. Now, I feel like an essential worker. Never would I have said that in my life before. But the fact that, just as a DJ, being a catalyst to be able to still go, we've got these great new bands and they're putting out new songs, and it feels pretty good. So, and I don't know that, I mean, I think that online you can still get that same support. You don't have to have a DJ in your corner, but the Currents always loved Michigander, and I just hope that when things loosen up, that you follow that trajectory you were on, and it's just going to get. You were supposed to do Lollapalooza, did you say?
Yeah, and a bunch of other festivals and things, but yeah, I mean we will eventually, but it's just kind of like a year off, which kind of stinks.
Do you feel like when you look out into an audience, first of all, are you one of those people, do you close your eyes? Do you actually try to look at faces when you're performing?
I think I try to look like I'm looking at everybody. But I think if I do,
just above their head.
That I heard Brandon Flowers say that once. He says he used to look at the ground all the time while he's saying, but then he said he would look above their head and look like he's looking. Or my trick is I like even if we're playing a tiny little low stage club or whatever, which is typical for us. If I look up, I pretend like I'm looking up into the stands of a theater or something.
Yeah.
And obviously there's no one up there, but it makes me look more engaged. I would get nervous if I was making eye contact with a bunch of people every night.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is it's like when big bands get big and play these huge stadiums, and all of a sudden your guitar player is 100 miles off that way, and it's very disorienting. But then inevitably a big band like that will go, well, let's go back and play some clubs. But how much you feed off of a smaller room and an audience is, I mean, that's got to be really important to you.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think we did a tour at the end of 2019 that was a headlining tour, and some shows were amazing. Some shows were very, very bad. And those nights where they were really very bad, I was like, you can't. There's not even really a crowd to feed off of. But and then I was like, how do I deal with this? And then I think I've become a lot more comfortable with the guys on stage, and so like I'm now playing the music like with my friends. Like that's how I look at it. Like this could be a really bad show, but I'm like doing we're in another city, another state, playing songs with each other, and it's just like if there's some people watching, cool. And so that's kind of like we did a drive-in show, and we're like, how do we cope with like the fact that there's 1,000 people here. But they're very far away, and they're all spaced out, and some are sitting on top of cars, and some are sitting inside cars. How do we connect with them? And I was like, I don't think we need to try to connect with them. I think by connecting with each other on stage and really and taking that for advantage, like that'll automatically impact the people that are watching and listening. Like they'll know that we're having a good time, and hopefully they will have a good time.
What constitutes a bad show to you?
We played a show in a place called Eureka Springs, Arkansas, and that should say enough. But it it was
a cool town, but it was strange. Me and Jason were laughing so hard we cried on stage.
There was a lady. There was like nobody really there to see us, but we were playing, and a lady was using a hula hoop that lit up and right in front of us, and it was like during a sad song. It was like not a song. Like it was so bizarre, and me and Jake, we could not make it through this. We were like crying, laughing.
And the funniest thing too is that like I was opening up for those.
Oh, he opened up
those shows, and like when I was doing a sound check, the sound guy literally, I said, "Can I get some reverb on my vocals?" The guy literally said to me, "We don't have that here."
Right.
So
we don't have that.
We don't. Yeah. I've never heard that before ever, and I was like, all right, this is gonna be a fun night.
They also spread the ashes of the owner underneath the stage, and they told us that as we were loading in.
It was probably one of the most interesting shows.
Definitely interesting. Jake got hit by a car like on that tour,
and I spilled hot water.
And he spilled hot Starbucks water all over his leg.
Ooh.
So there were some bad. Those are some bad times.
Let's go back to that. To the ashes under the stage. Was it like after this person had passed?
I don't know if it was right after they passed, but it was. I can't. The only way to explain this place is in Beauty and the Beast when Gaston is like singing and they're all like doing that musical and they're like popping out of like windows and doors and like that whole thing. That is what that room felt like. It felt like it was like a bunch of people are just gonna like pop out of like.
It was weird. It was like an outdoor venue inside. It was
very
strange.
It's very hard to explain, but hopefully we don't have to go back there again.
Well, maybe you could put it on your resume as that you've played a funeral pyre.
That's true. Yeah,
it was interesting.
Yeah, it was very, very weird.
What shows when you were younger? And did they have a lot of all ages shows in Michigan?
Oh yeah, everything is all age. I mean, most things are all age. Yeah.
So what were the bands that you would in the smaller venues that you would push up to be in the very front, or are you not a very front guy?
I was a very front guy for like big shows. Like I used to wait in line. I saw Brandon Flowers, and I waited in line in November I got there like 9 a.m., 8 a.m., and I waited there. The first time Alt J had like played the States, I remember like that first record, and I remember we waited very long. One time waited for Coldplay for like 8, like get there at 8 in the morning, and like just those are the kind of bands. I mean, there was a lot of local bands that we saw, like a lot, but seeing like those big shows, I think I waited in line for like 19 hours to see U2.
What?
And I was like up against the barricade for that.
I was at the front for them too.
Yeah. Crazy.
I think I totally understand that feeling of wanting to. There are certain people that you will wait 19 hours for. You will stand pressed up against a barricade. I just want to relay something to you. Patti Smith was playing in town, and she was performing at this beautiful theater on the university campus called Northrop Auditorium. And I got front row tickets. Somebody gave them to me. I have never
Wow.
had front row tickets in my life. I've never really even aspired to have a front row ticket. And can I tell you, it was the single most uncomfortable I've ever been in my life because it was a seated event. But with the stage lights, I mean, I felt like I was in the show because I was sitting there and her stage light was on the front row. And it was so intimate that I was almost embarrassed. And I literally, I kind of had a panic attack. I was like, I am way too close to her. She is way too cool. And I am like just this moron and I'm engulfed in her spotlight. It was so anyway, there's the converse side of being in the front row for someone you really love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to see. I think I was front row for the National once, and like the first time I ever saw them, and they're one of my favorite bands, and I like held hands with Matt while he was singing, and I was like, whoa, this is so cool.
Hey, here's a quiz.
I can't. Oh yeah.
What is Matt's last name?
Berninger, right?
That's what we thought for about the last 55 years, but apparently it's Berninger.
Berninger.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, Matt Berninger.
We've said it wrong for 16 years, and he never corrected anyone.
Yeah,
Finally had to release his solo album.
That solo album ruins everything. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's another one who definitely connects to his audience in a way that's
Definitely. Yeah.
just really magical too.
Such a great band. Yeah.
So I just want to say again how grateful I am to both of you, Jason, Jake. It's so nice to be able to sit down. I mean, I used to do this a couple times a week, sit down and chat with a band and a band that I like. It's even better. And so I'm so happy to do this. And I want to sort of have some of your optimism rub off on me that it will be sooner than later before we can actually be in a room together.
It'll happen.
Yeah. And have you just done
It'll
the thing?
happen.
Have you done the thing where it's like, I'm not going home for Thanksgiving?
Actually, my family all had COVID.
Oh,
And they got through it, and I also had it.
you
So
did?
luckily, back in like October. And so luckily, I mean, the only bright side, I mean, we all made it through, but we felt cool with seeing family. And then, I actually, my friend's a nurse, and the other night she's doing the vaccines, and she, and they have like a wait, I guess, so they give out all the vaccines, then they call a wait list. And after that, there's people who don't show up still. And so after that, the nurses can call friends and family. And I was the only person that my friend knew in Kalamazoo. And she said, we have an extra dose.
Whoa.
And I got to crazy. And I got to go get it. And it was like the weirdest, like historical thing I've like felt a part of. So thankfully, Jake hasn't got it.
I haven't got it yet.
And or Jake hasn't got sick or the vaccine. But I'm feeling the nurses and everybody there were so great, and they felt very optimistic about everything.
Good.
So that made me even more optimistic. And now that we have like a different president, I think things will be a little better.
Can I just ask morbidly, did you lose your sense of taste and smell right away?
I didn't. So my roommates had it. They horribly lost everything. I was like eating very clean and healthy around the time I got it, and like I'm continuing to, and on a very like high vitamin thing. And so I don't know if that's why I didn't lose it, but I think that could have been a good part of it, that I was eating super healthy and taking a lot of vitamins. That could have like helped negate some of the side effects. But yeah. But I'm fortunate. It was the scariest thing to get my call back for my test.
Positive.
I mean, I was like, okay, everyone's been safe. We can go to have a little tiny dinner. And it was like Jake was there. And then after the dinner, one of our friends was like, hey guys, I don't feel good. I'm going to get tested. And they were like, oh shoot.
Yeah.
So yeah, crazy.
And I somehow didn't get it.
Jake.
So
Yeah, Jake
I
got
lucked
off.
out. I was stressing though. I was
I
freaking
bet.
out. I stayed in my room for 2 weeks. I didn't go around anybody.
Oh, I'm sure you thought you
Yeah.
had it 100 times a day. Like,
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
In my head, I was
Feeling my
like,
head.
I was sick. I was
Yeah.
so sick, and I felt like my body. And then I was like, I got tested 3 times, and I never was sick. It was all in my head.
Yeah.
Yep. So the EP, hooray, comes out officially
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Well,
And
we announce it tomorrow. Yeah.
you announce it tomorrow. And
Yeah.
will there be any fanfare or anything for your fans to be paying attention to?
There's a single. The song we played, "Okay," will be out tomorrow.
That is so
which
cool.
I'm super excited. I'm so excited to get music. I mean, release day is just the best day, especially when we're announcing like an EP, and then in a couple weeks we'll get the vinyl pre-order out and everything, and new merch, and yeah, we're both very excited. Everybody who's involved is super excited.
We've been waiting for it.
I mean, it was supposed to come out like in the summer, so of last year. So
Yeah.
now,
It feels weird. Like we started recording it around this time.
yeah,
Last year.
of last year. So a year later, it's done.
You're different people completely than
Yeah.
you were before, probably.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I just, again, thank you so much. I want to thank all the members who are on this Zoom session. These sessions aren't possible without your support, so we thank you so much. And I want to thank you, Jason and Jakes. Thank you so much for taking an hour of your day and talking
course.
to a big fan.
Oh, thank you.
And best of luck, and we'll see you on the other side of this.
Yes, hopefully we'll see you in Minneapolis or St. Paul. That's where you guys
Cool.
are. Yeah. Yeah.
Right on.
Cool.
All right.
Sweet.
Ciao.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.
See ya.